Welcome my Blitzies. Welcome to today's stream. Brandon Flint. I'm a variety streamer. I do a bunch of plays a bunch of video games. I draw art, and soon I'm getting into 3D modeling and programming. How are you all doing today? We're gonna be doing a little bit of an art stream. I pretty much did not get to eat early because I had just a 6-hour work shift, and unfortunately, you would think it'll be mandatory to have like at least a 15-minute break after like working, if you're working 4 hours, right? Not according to the state I'm living in right now. It's 6 out. I don't know. It's optional to have a break, to not have a break, or not give a break if you're working only 4 to 6 hours. If you're working only that, then you do get like a 30-minute break. I know it's bonkers. It is all kinds of bonkers. I don't understand. Anywho, I'm gonna do some art. Allow me to actually like eat something first before we like move straight into art. Alright. Over the time being. Just a bit of okay, here we go. Let's see if we get this right. Boom. I get to move this over here. There we go. But yeah, I'm happy to be back with Blitzies. How y'all been today?
Today is the 30th anniversary of Windows 95. So what are we going to do? In the internet age, we're going to go on the internet.
Ooh.
We're going to see how usable it is.
Yeah.
So let's get into it.
Don't do this at home. I want to do is scroll a bit here. I've been trying to do this. Index.
So here we have a new computer to the channel. This is the Ability Pentium. It's a Pentium computer, obviously. That's a turbo button. It's very interesting.
Alright, we're gonna do
for
that
a Pentium
soon.
to have. And it's got dual floppy, no CD, nothing else. And as you can tell, the display doesn't change when you press the turbo button. Don't know why. It's kind of weird. It's got dual hard drives on the inside. They're both Western Digitals. This computer came
Didn't want to mute it.
automotive place. I don't remember if it was Ford or what, but it has AutoCAD.
Yeah, it is a bit loud for me.
See what else it's got.
Alright.
Pretty much just AutoCAD and WinZip for some reason.
I like these kind of videos. Brings me back to like 20 early YouTube vibes.
It's currently suffering from a dead clock chip, the battery anyway, so it doesn't read this floppy because the BIOS is stuck only on this one, and it only reads one of the hard drives because the second hard drive it won't read either. It's something to do with when you have to restart the computer after its setup is done in the BIOS, it resets everything back to default. So, I mean, it does work. It's just missing half of what it could do. But I do have a clock chip. It's right here. I got it from the eBay. But this video is going to be about Windows 95 30th anniversary, which is a pretty big deal, given this was one of the biggest operating systems to come out at the time. Still, in my opinion, is a very influential and important operating system. Now, I
Retrotech
pre-installed Opera 9.64.
retro tech like this always interests me because because I always want to like look back and just admire how far technology has become, and the limitations of retro pieces like this one. It just gives a little bit of that extra charm. You know what I mean?
That's what version this is, but I will go through how to get on the internet if you don't know how. So the first thing you want to do is go to Control Panel.
Mm.
Let me make these bigger so you can see them better. Go to Network. Now, what you're going to need is something called TCP. Now I've already added it, but you want to have either the IP address assigned automatically, or you can specify it yourself. I keep it automatic. I'll just flip through the settings so you can see what I have. You don't need a DNS, but if you wanted one, that would be for connecting to like another computer. You have the host name here and then the domain. But I'm not using that. No NetBIOS. Nothing for advanced. And a client for Microsoft Networks and file sharing for Microsoft Networks. Now that is optional. I just have that for connecting other computers to this one. And then that should be it. And of course this. Browse master enabled, announce yes. That's for if you're going to have another computer connect to this. You want to have the file and printer sharing on, and that's also here too. Give access to your files and allow others to print to your printer. That's optional as well, but I just have that on because I have a printer that's pretty old, and I would like to be able to just use this computer and print to it from here. I haven't tried it yet, but it might be possible.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna close that out. Sometimes you'll get this error here saying that the file copy is older than what's currently on there, and you just press you want to keep the file, and then it'll be fine. And then I'm not going to start the computer because I don't need.
Okay, we're gonna have well, come on. Sorry, neighbors playing music, blasting music.
I went into $7,000 of credit card debt because of food addiction. Let's talk about it.
Okay, y'all, she made a 6-part series to why she's in credit card debt over her food addiction. And we finna watch it all together. I'm invested already.
When I was living down
Hold
in
on,
Florida, I owned my own home and I rented out 2 of the bedrooms. Because my renters were obviously paying me, I was able to use that money to cover my Wi-Fi, my electric, my water, and my lot rent. In addition to that income, I was also working as a front desk receptionist at a nursing home. Now, in hindsight, I should have taken my extra money and put it into savings. But obviously, like any other addiction,
Yeah.
food consumed all of my thoughts and all of my money. I opened up a credit card with a $5,000 limit and made the monthly payments of $40 a month. In addition to that, I had a second credit card with a $2,000 limit, and I believe the monthly payment on that was about $35
What the
a month.
fuck? Why
Now, don't
would
get me
you?
wrong, I always kept up with all of my payments because I did not want to mess up my credit score. However, during that time, I was living above my means and eating out for almost every single meal.
First off, I thought it was brilliant that she ended up renting out 2 rooms of her home to some renters so she could have extra income. Now, it's very sad that she wasn't able to save any of that money because of her addiction. And obviously that she's eating out so much. And I'm assuming this probably isn't healthy things that she's eating out at. Because most of these places, when you're going to get fast food, they have seed oils, all sorts of processed ingredients in there that we probably just shouldn't be consuming on a daily basis. Then she said she maxed out a $5,000 credit card, but then she said she had another one for $2,000, which
What
she
the
likely
fuck?
maxed out also, which would equal $7K. But the part that really got me was that she said she was making her payments on time, and she's only making monthly payments of like $35, $40-something max, probably, on either of these credit cards. Talking about, I don't want to mess my credit up. Here's the thing, y'all. I keep telling y'all, you have to think about credit utilization. If you're just making monthly payments on something, but you've maxed out the credit card, you're utilizing 100%. You're utilizing maybe 90%. And I'm just being gracious by saying 90%. And I already told you all, if you want to be considered to have good credit, you want to be in that 30% or less, preferably 10% of your total credit utilization. Not 90 to 100. This isn't helping you build your credit because you're making some measly monthly payments. At that point, all you're paying is interest. I need for y'all to realize that you're not helping yourself by doing stuff like that. But I want to hear part 2.
As I mentioned previously, I was living above my means. Now, you and I are probably both wondering at this point, how can you possibly accumulate $7,000 worth of credit card debt in food alone? Let me tell you, it is possible. For pretty much every single meal, I would eat out. I mentioned before that I was working as a receptionist at a nursing home, but let's backtrack a little. When I first started that job, I was also working at a daycare. So I worked daycare in the morning and then reception at night. Due to my busy schedule and being a single person, I found that eating out was the most convenient way to fill my body. I would get to my daycare job at 5:30 in the morning and work there until 1 p.m. Then I would go home, let out my dogs, eat super quickly, and then work at the nursing home from 3 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. In addition, I was heavily involved in my church and went to small group one night a week. On Thursday nights after small group, I always insisted that we go out to eat because I was starving at that point. And of course, on Sundays, I would stop at Starbucks on my way to church, in addition to getting lunch after church for community. Between you and me, I just use this as an excuse to go out to eat junk food.
Girl, I already knew.
All right.
I'm sorry. I already knew this was an excuse. You wasn't finna pull the wool over on me. Y'all don't lie. Y'all know y'all was thinking the same thing too. We already knew you wasn't eating because you was trying to survive. Like, we looking, ma'am, you said you had an addiction to fast food. You eating out breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the church function and then Starbucks. Girl, we already knew. It's okay. I've eaten for comfort many times before. I know the feels. But you wasn't finna gaslight none of us. We already knew. You over here whispering. Girl, we heard you loud and clear.
Now I know what you're thinking. Okay, you're going out to eat 2 to 3 times a week. What's the harm in that? Joke's on you because I was not cooking during the week either. I am a sucker for a good iced coffee, and there was a place called Sip and Dip on my way to work that I would pass in the morning to just grab coffee and a donut.
The only thing dipping was your bank account, and them credit cards was eating you up.
Now forget about the money for a second. During this time, I gained 100 pounds. I had just lost 60 after losing my grandma in 2020 from COVID, but because I was working 2 jobs, I lived in my own house, I was responsible for all the bills, and obviously I was working very hard. The weight during this time just piled on, and I went from 280 pounds to 373 pounds.
And I'm gonna be honest, when my daddy died, I was comfort eating. That's why I'm saying what I'm saying. I've been there before. I've done this. I haven't went into debt for food, like $7,000 on a credit card debt for food is, a very specific situation, and I think it's very serious. But I can understand where she's coming from when she's talking about eating because she's grieving. I went through a period where I lost a lot of weight at first when he first passed away, and then I gained a lot of weight because I was at Chick-fil-A. I was at Chick-fil-A eating all the fries. About a month later, I looked down, I said, wait a minute, getting kind of hard to see my toes. I was getting my 4-pack was gone. We back right now though. I got abs again, but I did it to myself, and I took full accountability for where I was at and what happened. And I understand grief is a thing, but I didn't use it as an excuse. It was just something that I went through, and we all grieve different. You don't know how you grieve until you grieve it. I didn't know I was about to gain 10 pounds. I didn't know it. And I'm just making light of the situation, y'all. This is life. Like, we all go through things, and I'm only saying this stuff because I actually relate to a lot of what she's saying. But don't let this sort of stuff consume you. That's what I really want to point out. I don't want to see nobody in debt. Maxed out credit cards on fast food. Y'all, there's some great recipes online. I need y'all to tap in. Save some money. And it's also very sad to hear about the loss of her grandma. I lost my grandma too, so I know how that is.
Now, obviously, you do not gain 100 pounds overnight. As I mentioned previously, in the morning, I would stop and I would grab coffee and a donut. That's not really out of the norm. However, the calories on that is crazy, not to mention the price. Sometimes that wouldn't even keep me full enough to get through the morning. So I would also order Uber Eats. I would get Chick-fil-A most mornings, and my order would consist of the chicken biscuit meal with hash browns and a sweet tea. And I would
The more you eat salts and fats, the hungrier you get, and then it makes you eat more, and then yeah, it's a vicious cycle.
add on the yogurt cup with fruit because obviously that's healthy.
And girl, I need to know, do you
Bruh.
get the spicy? Because that was what that the spicy had me in a chokehold. I would go get that spicy biscuit, and I might have got a hash brown if I was feeling frisky. But something about their coffee just ain't taste right to me. It tastes like barbecue sauce, and I ain't like that. So I just opted for my own little water. I always been hooked on my water. And she's right, the calories on that is crazy, and that's why you can't go there all the time. You got to go there every once in a blue moon. Chick-fil-A got this down to a science on how they going to keep y'all coming back addicted to the chicken. Addicted. Look it up. But I'm telling you, as somebody
Mm-hmm.
who mostly eats healthy, except when, I'm going through something, obviously. When you cut all that stuff out, you ain't even gonna want it. If I go eat something like that now, I'm gonna be coughing up a storm because all the mucus building up. My body gonna start rejecting stuff that I don't normally eat because I'm eating so clean. You see, you'll start to feel tired and lethargic, and you're gonna want to opt for that baked chicken. You're gonna opt for that stuff that's going to make you feel good because your body likes it. And then when you start eating junk again, you going to feel sick unless you get acclimated to it again. So I just recommend, if you can, just try to stay healthy. Eat as healthy as you can, y'all. Health is wealth. And I know we talk about finances a lot on this channel, but health is just important. What is the use of having all these resources if you don't have a body that's able to function good enough to enjoy it? And I mean, if it's because of something you could have avoided, like maybe just not eating all the donuts, maybe not going to Chick-fil-A as much, maybe you just do it once a week. I'm not saying cut it out all the way, but maybe you can find a way where you can still do those things every now and then while maintaining a healthy life, because she's not lying about those calories, y'all. It's really scary to see the amount of calories in America specifically a lot of us consume eating fast food,
Yeah.
breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and a lot of people aren't cooking. It's contributing to a lot of health issues. And I'm saying this from a loving place. And I want everybody to live their best life.
Between the coffee and the Chick-fil-A and the delivery fees, you're looking at about 20 to 30 bucks just for breakfast alone. And of course, I'm a nice person, so I would always offer other people if they wanted anything. I would just buy it for them.
And they wouldn't have got nothing. They wouldn't have got nothing because I'm broke and I'm in debt. That's what y'all got to start telling people. I ain't got it. Start saying no. Do I need to do some sort of exercise to help y'all say the words, no, I'm broke, I don't got it, I can't do it? I don't know if y'all are just trying to be so nice that you just put yourself into like these horrible, bad situations financially, but I need y'all to get comfortable saying these things, not because I want this to be your reality long term. I want you to be able to practice so you can say it to
Yeah,
other
let's
people
see
and you don't
here.
feel no shame about saying, I ain't got it. No, I don't have no money. Those phrases, when you could just spit it out to somebody else with no shame, because that's your reality and you're to the point where, hey, I'm not trying to get worse because of you. That's where I need y'all to be. Because when we can get there, we can start getting ourselves to a better situation. Maybe later you can do those things, but right now it's a no. Don't let people pressure you or feel some type of way because you said no to something.
I had a 2-hour window to run home, get changed, let out my dogs, and eat lunch. I went into $7,000 of credit card debt because of food addiction. Part 5. Okay, so we're looking at about $20 to $30 every single morning for breakfast alone. Now I have a 2-hour lunch break, but I have to rush home, change my clothes, and let out my dogs. Now, honestly, at 300 pounds, do you think that I have the energy to do all of that and cook a well-balanced meal or meal prep a well-balanced meal and eat said meal prep in addition to having food addiction? No, I do not. So of course, what do I do but stop by Wendy's, KFC, McDonald's, or Dunkin' on my way to work?
And I got a question because I've seen bigger women, bigger men meal prep their food. I'm not saying it wouldn't be harder if you weigh less. I'm just saying it could be possible, right? Because I've seen other people do it. But that is a lot of weight that she's talking about. So it's like, did you get to the point where you actually could barely move? Because that sounds more like what she's describing here. And we've seen these TV
Yeah,
shows where people
this
literally have
sounds
to
like the
get
case.
handed food because they can't
I
do
just,
anything themselves.
wow.
And it might have got that bad for her. Oh, bless her soul.
Now
Bless
again,
her.
we're
Bless
talking
her
about
soul,
budget
man.
here. So let's say I spent $15 to $20 for lunch because of course I got chicken nuggets, fries, a drink, and maybe a burger or a dessert or a snack so that I can have something while I'm at work. So here we are. We've already spent $50 for the day and we haven't even touched dinner, snacks, nighttime, anything like that. So
Hey,
between
what's
breakfast
up?
and lunch, I had spent anywhere between $40 and
Hey,
$50.
thank you for
I
the
got off
hydration
work at
raid.
6:30 p.m. I
What's
still
up?
had to take my dogs to the dog park, clean the house, deal with renters, hang out with friends. I need to be social or I will not do well.
Sorry,
So
I wasn't
maybe I would
looking.
have
I
dinner at
wasn't looking.
home or
Thank you. And
maybe I
also
would
thank you for the
order
tips. Thank
McDonald's. I would
you.
almost always order a late night snack or get ice cream
Anyway,
because it was hot
where is
obviously down in
my...
Florida and ice cream is my
Why is my
favorite.
water
On
bottle all the way
Thursdays,
across,
I would go
halfway
out to
across the room?
dinner. On Sundays, I would get breakfast and lunch. And then Saturdays, of course, I was always out and about and probably ate all of my meals out as well because why would I
How
spend
y'all
one day a
been?
week to cook? Like that doesn't make any
Been
sense
doing well?
in my mind at the time. However, clearly it would have been much better and much cheaper to have meal prep during this time.
I thought she said she couldn't do it because of her
Will
weight.
do.
I'm not sure if she was just saying that as an excuse, and if you were, it's okay, girl. I'm not. I understand. I'm just saying. Earlier, you said that the weight was the issue, and I've seen people at a larger weight struggle with that. It could have been the case with her, or it might have just been like, "Hey, I just kind of was
Alright.
saying that because I really just didn't want to cook." I don't know. Either way, girl, I just want you to get
See
better because
here.
yeah, this is
I
serious.
hydrated.
And it was burning a hole in her wallet
Also,
and it
make
was
sure
causing
everyone
her to get
hydrates and
into
eats
debt
something.
over all of this fast food that didn't even do nothing to nourish her body. Oh my gosh.
And again, I'm always that nice person at the office that offers to pay for everyone and no one pays them back. Actually, speaking of
Alright.
which, two of my friends owe me $100 that we're not even friends anymore and they won't pay me back. But this is just the predicaments I get myself into constantly. I'm always helping others. No one's gonna help me, girl. But anyway, that is how I got myself into $7,000 worth of credit card debt because of my food addiction. And if you made it to
Jesus
the end,
fucking
you're the realest of
Christ.
the real ones. I already see people complaining, and I'm just now recording my last video. So thank you so much, and love you guys.
I quickly wanted to talk about
Do
the
a little
fact that
bit of
she
warm up
ended this
before
with
getting
saying
like
that
truly
she
into
is
it.
not friends with some people anymore because they owed her $100. Girl, don't give them folks no money. You don't give, when you're in debt, why do y'all like to give people money when you're in debt? And I'm not saying this to bash her for doing this. It's just something I see in general. You ever seen somebody
Also, I'm finally getting my my second monitor delivered tomorrow, so I can set that up and have stream just be up like right behind my art tablet so I can look at the chat more easily. Also, yeah, I'm actually like one of the types to help people when I can, because I know what it's like to to feel alone and to feel like there's no one there to help you. So I I have a lifelong vow to just be the person that I needed as a child, so I can be there for others, the same way little me needed someone else.
Really broke, try to give you hey, I'm trying to give you $5. I'm gonna send you some birthday money. I'm gonna do this, do that for you. And meanwhile, you may know they're in debt. I keep telling y'all, at the end of the day, nobody's gonna help you get yourself out this debt if you bury yourself into debt. And when you give people money, I honestly feel like you just
Yeah.
gotta be okay with the fact if it was supposed to be like lent money, that you might not get it back. I've lent people money before, family members even. Never got my money back, and I never will. I haven't even heard from a cousin that said I was her favorite because I lent her some money and she's been ducking me for about 10 years now. I'm never going to hear from her again. I've accepted it.
Oh,
And it happens with friends too. When you
I
lend
realize
money
that.
out, sometimes people can say all this, yeah, I got you next week, blah, blah, blah. Y'all about to not be friends no more over that same money. That little $50, that's a little right now, and y'all done known each other for 5 years, 10 years. Y'all ain't going to be friends no more over $50. It's about to be stupid, but I'm just being honest with you. If you
Alright.
give it out, just give from your heart. Just say, hey, you got it. Just keep it. Because the last thing that you want is to give out some money to somebody that you had a good relationship with, and you realize that, dang, you irresponsible. Dang, you really would do me dirty like that. And now you can't be around them. You don't even want to call them because every time you think about them, you're like, dang, you really ducked me over some money. And we were supposed to be cool. You don't want to deal with nothing like that. So just give from your heart. You ain't got to worry about it then. And if you can't give from the heart, in your case, you know, she couldn't give from the heart because she's in debt. Just say no. It's okay. If they're your real friends, they'll understand. Don't be out here people pleasing, y'all. You ain't gotta buy stuff for the whole office. Don't nobody need you to be nice that bad to where you swimming in debt. These is grown adults. They'll figure it out. And I say that because I know that there's somebody out there buying the donuts for the office, buying the drinks for the office, throwing pizza parties for the office, and you're in debt. Don't do that. Because as she said in this video, you're going to be out on your own trying to figure this
Yep.
out whenever it's time to pay back that debt. But I need to know, do any of y'all relate to this story? I relate to different aspects of the story. Even though I never buried myself in the debt over food, I can sure understand eating for comfort in time of grief. But I need to know, have you ever had any instance like this? Do you relate? Have you ever been addicted to food? But we got to start making better decisions today in order to have a better future.
Exactly. Also, you gotta do what you can to have a better future for yourself.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, what's kind of wild is on a modern day smartphone, especially an Android phone, you too can play Grand Theft Auto 5 at around like medium to high settings at a playable frame rate. Now, it might look like it's an annoying way to play the game, especially with the touch controls,
Yeah.
but you know what? This is the freedom to do whatever it is that you want. Plus, you can always connect a controller to your phone. Now, why am I talking about this specifically? It's because I had to download an app that let me emulate Windows or whine underneath my actual Android phone so I can play
What the
PC
fuck?
games right here. Now, of course, ladies and gentlemen, would I be doing this normally on a day-to-day basis? Probably not, but I like to have the option. Now, I switched to Android like weeks ago, and you know, one of the big things that I said about this was like, I want a phone where like, if I spend over $1,000 to buy a product, I want to be able to own that product. One of the problems with
Yeah.
iPhones is that they're just baby phones. You know, at the end of the day, Apple basically tells you what you can't put and not put on it. So basically, you spend all this money, and Apple decides what applications you get to run. Now, sure, you might be like, Moody, you could jailbreak your phone or do this and that. What if I don't want to go through that? What if I just want to be able to install a goddamn application?
Yeah.
Android used to be great. Now they're taking that feature away. You know, Google had this motto back
Oofers.
in the day called
Big
"Don't
oofers.
be evil," and I feel like all Google is kind of doing now is becoming pure fucking evil. So let me explain what's been going on. So recently, like, Google just put out this thing, a new layer for security for certified Android devices. Now, certified basically means that, you know, any Android device, I guess you're picking up in a store. So your Samsung devices, your Google Pixels, you know,
Yeah.
LGs, whatever. Well, I don't even think LG makes phones, but you get the idea, right? Your certified Android phone. So what they basically said is apparently their recent analysis found that over 50 times more malware comes from the internet side-loaded sources than applications on the Google Play Store. So I just want you to remember, okay, this is the same company that's talking about your privacy, your security, your safety, when at the same time on the Chrome Web Store, they have free VPN 1, free VPN for Chrome. Now, this is an application that apparently 100,000 users have just downloaded.
It's because Google is
And if
getting
you
money off those
actually look at some of
VPNs,
the
free
allegations,
VPNs.
Toy Security did a good write-up where they said that apparently this extension serves as a free VPN that apparently will just grab information. So you can see in the code right here that they provided, this JavaScript. So again, in this document ready
Some
state
anatomy
or document, you know,
practice.
interactive, complete, yada, 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 it will do an action called capture viewport. So basically they're just capturing allegedly screenshots of the user's like work and sending it over. So whether, you know, you put in a password, you put in your credit card numbers, the 3 goofy numbers on the back, expiration date, you send that over, they might have access to that information. They might be grabbing your info. So again, I don't want to just make this, you know, the big VPN app. I haven't truly examined this myself, so I'm not going to completely, you know, abide by the allegations. But generally, when you have allegations like this, as a company, Google, if you care about your users, you should probably delist this application. It still exists to this day. So I don't want to fucking hear for a goddamn second that Google gives a shit about the users when they themselves are just peddling dog shit in their own stores. So right over here, they said that what they're going to do is something called developer verification. So starting next year, Android will require every app to be registered by a verified developer in order to be installed by users on certified Android devices. That creates crucial accountability, making it much harder for malicious actors to quickly distribute a harmful app. Think of it like an ID check at an airport. They make it sound so fucking annoying. Yeah, you know what I love, right? Going to the fucking airports, going into the lines, ooh, having them stick flashlights up my ass. Sir, you can't bring that water bottle. That you can't. Yeah, that's really a fun experience. Here's the big difference, Google. Okay, my phone is not like the fucking Pearson International Airport. Okay, it is a product I bought. Okay, it is my device. If I want to install whatever the fuck it is that I want on my phone, I should be allowed to do that. Okay, that is my God-given right to install whatever it is that I needed to. And honestly, I do install a lot of applications that aren't in the App Store. I would say a good 50% of the stuff on my phone didn't come from the Play Store. It's just stuff that I downloaded off GitHub and whatnot. Now, I'm just going to be completely real here. I think this is more to do with applications Google doesn't like than protecting the users. So for instance, let's say that you're somebody in the emulator space and you want to run a bunch of emulators on your phone, so things like PS2, PS3 emulators, DS emulators, yada, yada, yada. I don't think some of those developers might get verified status. And let's say that they do, okay? I wonder just how many applications are going to be delisted. Emulators like Drastic, where you can play DS games on your phone. I don't even think that's an active application. I don't even think the developer really cares about being there. I could only imagine what will happen if that gets completely removed from the entire matrix here. So what they said over here, to be clear, developers still have the same freedom to distribute their apps directly through sideloading or use any app store they prefer. Now, when they say we believe this is how an open system should work, they're completely ignoring the fact that unless those developers aren't verified, which you have to go through their verification process, that is going to absolutely hamper people from installing stuff that Google doesn't approve of. So what are the kind of applications that I don't think will bypass Google's authorized developers is probably stuff like YouTube, which are actually applications that include ad blocking, background playback, and reach to zoom. Now, I don't endorse
It'll be
this product by
unfortunate
any
that it gets
imagination,
taken down.
because obviously I imagine this is against YouTube's terms and services. Even they will agree and say that this is probably against YouTube's terms and services. But a lot of people install applications like this for various social media services that are so enshittified that having tools like this may lead to a better user experience. Instead of, some people just paying money to get a slightly better user experience, some people just revert back to how YouTube or a lot of sites kind of used to be, right? So I don't think this is going to necessarily be okay. I also don't think a lot of applications like Winlater, which I used to run like Grand Theft Auto 5 on my phone, is going to be allowed on the actual App Store. In fact, I don't even see that on the Play Store itself. And even then, I had to go through certain other forks of the emulator, which are made by totally different developers. So unless these developers all get together and start verifying themselves, which comes with its own hurdles, this is actually the death of real freedom on our actual smartphones. At this point, I might as well just fucking go back to an iPhone.
I'll start for any background noise that Mike picks up.
Linux phone at this point, okay? Because if this is the last bastion of real freedom, then I might as well own it, dude. Now, I don't want to jump into conspiracy theories, but I want you guys to kind of understand what's going through my mind here. I think for censorship being such a huge topic of discussion these days, and that's kind of where our world seems to be headed with all these new laws, I think that frameworks like what Google is pushing with these verified developers almost feels like a way for, them to put in limitations into our device at that OS level, to the point where, applications like Signal, for instance, and I'm not saying this application you can't download on Google Play, you absolutely can right now. But there are parts of the world where you need to download the APK file for this directly because they just need access to this application. Now imagine if all of a sudden something went down with the security of this application, or just talks broke down and maybe this wasn't allowed to be installed on modern devices. I almost feel this is a Trojan horse to limit what kind of applications we can have on our phones. Applications that might be important to keep our privacy, to keep things like our encryption. When the government and all these agencies are so after us to stop, us from, having a little bit of privacy, I almost feel like controlling exactly what applications can go on your devices.
They're almost going the Apple route.
Trusted developer layer is something that needs to be addressed. Okay, if Android is making side loading a issue, this needs to be discussed about more. And honestly, it's not even just an Android issue. I think for iPhone users, you should have the ability to install whatever you want, regardless of where you live. I think what I'm seeing here is sort of the entry point, that Trojan horse. They're going to say it's meant for your security, but I feel it's just meant to take away the bit of freedom that you have, especially on a device that you actually own yourself. What is Google actually doing? It's crazy to think that this is the kind of stuff.
This is wild.
Where if you ever
this really
read
is wild.
This one article here, every time in Spain when cops see a Google Pixel, they think it's a drug dealer. And a lot of it comes out to the fact that apparently people who buy Google Pixels always install things like Graphene OS, which is a private secure operating system that law enforcement hates because ultimately it secures the shit out of your phone, okay? It protects you from prying eyes. And I think it's totally cool that you do this. Now, from what I understand, this is the only real workaround of this bullshit so far, like installing a completely separate operating system that doesn't abide by the fucking bullshit rules that Google likes to invoke onto people. But the problem with things like Graphene OS is, let's say you buy like a Samsung phone, which are actually pretty locked down when it comes to modifying the OS. This is something that isn't going to be practical here. And let's say that even if you could do it, I used to own like Samsung Galaxy devices, Samsung Notes, where I installed custom operating systems. And when you trip something called Knox on a Samsung phone, which is basically its security framework, you lose access to things like, Samsung Pay, a bunch of other security features that you actually paid for on your device that you lose because all you wanted to do was simply gain some more privacy onto your system. And again, it's not
That's
something that I
major
agree
bro
with,
moment.
but these are the things that you're going into. Google is literally ruining what, in my opinion, makes Android Android. It allows users to customize their device. Android is like buying a fucking actual like computer that you can do whatever it is that you wanted. Apple is like buying an incredibly locked down device that is pretty good, but ultimately it does have its limitations and you can't go around it. I want you to kind of imagine it like this. Imagine for a second you're using Windows, right? And all of a sudden, Windows updates its operating system and says, hey guys, by the way, you can't just run any application you want willy-nilly. It has to be approved by us in this whitelist that we've made. That would probably piss you off, okay? I'm sure for a lot of you guys out there, some of you that may even get your software for unreputable sources, you might be looking at that and going, wow, I don't want a company controlling what it is that I do. But that's effectively what we've got with our smartphones now. Probably one of the freest smartphones is being fucking ruined because Google wants to protect its user base. And I honestly think it comes down to Google noticing that all these other applications exist that provide ad blocking functionality, applications that they probably see hurting their bottom line. And I don't think it's just to protect the user. If you want to protect the user, you should just educate them. That's why I have my channel where I upload tons of videos where I talk about how to just protect yourself. And one of the simplest ways you can protect yourself and the people around you is just not install shady applications to your phone. Don't download the free VPN service. Don't download the random shady application without truly verifying it first. And I guarantee you, your Android phone will be just fine. Now, in a modern Android smartphone, right, if you actually just see the level of protections they have, you can't even install applications from the get-go as long as you don't turn off features like auto blocker. Now, at least on this Samsung device, this feature right here prevents me, if I have this enabled, which is always enabled by default, it'll prevent applications like APKs from being installed, block commands by, USB cables, block malware images and messaging apps. It does a strong layer of protections right from the get-go. You as a user, if you want to install all the extra stuff on your phone, have to consciously turn this shit off, give a fingerprint sometimes, and then get access to it. So the fact that Google is jumping in for our safety and security, even though these features are already present as they are, just shows me that there's probably something else down the road that they're thinking of. Or at least that's just where my conspiracy mind is going to. Don't listen to the bullshit Google is feeding you about, if you leave our app store, 50 times more danger approaches you. You know what? Honestly, you should probably clean up your own house first before telling the entire world how to fucking regulate their shit. I'm not somebody that likes to engage with Google when it comes to my phone. That's why, I try to always go out of their services, or at least try to decouple myself as much as I can. But when Google is literally sitting at the core of this operating system and telling me what I can and cannot install, that needs to change. I mean, it's fucking stupid, man. Like, it really is just stupid. It's actual dumb behavior. But yeah, anyways, I wanted to kind of yap about this because one of the only reasons I switched over might not even be a reason any longer. I am out.
Also, yeah, you do need to protect your privacy. Pretty much so.
Generation
All right.
Z, also known as Gen Z, is generally defined from 1997 to 2012, meaning 13 to 28 years of age. So with that age range, most of us are young adults. We living a life, we living a dream. We got that young blood in us. Most people are in uni, college, whatever the fuck you want to call it, getting lit, doing all this bullshit.
Thank you.
But in actual reality, niggas is bitchless. Niggas ain't got no job. Niggas don't know about their future. Bro, people don't even know if the world is gonna exist tomorrow. And because of the nature of our generation, we are so unserious about this. What? Bro, we will make a meme out of anything. Even the way I'm making this video shows how unserious we are about the topics of today. But behind all of that is just a fatigued individual, tired of all that bullshit and all it has to represent. And what you get out of this is a fucking stare saying, "Are we dead ass?" Now let me clearly define what the Gen Z stare is, because it's not just staring into fucking nothing when you're doing absolute jack shit. That's called daydreamer. We already got a term for that. We're not fucking dumb. People thinking we got a mental condition, bro. That's not what it is at all, bro. You gotta be a dumbass to think if this is just like a, "Oh, I'm staring off into the distance. I'm so fucking stupid. I have no social skills." Fuck off. That's not what it is. The Gen Z stare is a term when a person from Gen Z, usually working customer service, is met with a question and or demand so fucking outlandish that they cannot do anything but look at the person with an empty stare of disbelief. Essentially, it's the perfect response for a Karen in a retail store. Like, how the fuck did I get here? And that's the perfect start.
Okay, let's do the eyes here.
Little Timmy, guess what we're learning today? What are we learning about? We're gonna learn about how the world is fucking dying. When you really think about it, teaching kids about climate change at such a young age and telling that the world is literally dying is so fucked up. Like, hey, if you thought the sun dying in 4 billion years is fucking terrifying, wait till you hear about the earth dying in another 100. Scrap that, 50. Scrap that again, 20. Climate change. It's fucking hot as shit. Climate change. It's fucking cold as shit. Climate change. It's fucking windy as shit. Climate change. I'm getting fucked in the ass, bro. Like, and hey, guess what? There's just plastic in your body now just for the sake of it. You know what I mean? That's
yeah.
cool too. So we've all spawned in and the world is already fucked up for us. Great. But hey, we were kids. As long as I got my 3DS, shit cool. And that shit worked. Economy booming. Shit's going sweet. People are trying to fix their carbon emissions. Fast forward a couple years, and then you get the COVID-19 pandemic. Imagine having some of the best years of your entire life, 2016 to like 2018-19, and then you enter a new decade thinking, man, last decade was so great.
Let's do it again. Only to be met with this bullshit.
And we
Yeah.
all didn't realize it at first.
Big
We
oof.
said, yo,
Big oof and a
2
half
weeks off
action
of
on
school?
that.
Fantastic.
I'm about to beat my meat straight for 2 weeks.
Then 2 weeks turned into 3, 3 into 4, 4 into I don't know how long I've been here.
Why the fuck do I feel called out? Why the fuck do I feel called out?
Anymore. Like, when you really think about it, this
Bruh.
shit is stupid. We went
And there's
from
a
prime
fire
Fortnite
truck.
to being forced to
Someone
answer
set
the
something on
question
fire
on
again.
TikTok asking you,
Where you shit the hardest.
and
What
we all
the?
sat there and really deliberated. No, when you really think about it, we sat there and deliberated. Nah, that toilet is kind of cool, but that one had the better view. Nah, this one was sweet. Nah, that one's cool as shit. Bro, what were we doing? How did we allow that to go on for as long as it did? But hey, no biggie. Just survive the pandemic. The next couple years can't be that bad. Right? So you're finally an adult. I'm real. I'm pretty sure most people don't feel like they're adults. You enter the world. You want to get money, cash, green, bread.
Yeah.
And boom. Would you look at that? That
The
job
job market.
listings doesn't have a list of jobs. That's like you buying a mud cake, opening that bitch up just to find that shit's empty with a sticky note of saying, ha ha, got you. And the people who got hit hardest the most was computer science major. Imagine getting told that if you went into this specific degree, you get a lot of cash money, be working in a cool industry that's secure, you're shaping the future, only to find out that when you finally get that degree and go into the job market, that everybody else did the same shit and nobody can get a job.
You got finessed.
But oh no, it wasn't just the computer science majors that got hit. It was everybody. Cause guess what? You wanna get a job in engineering, you wanna get a job in business, you wanna get an entry-level job at all. What's that right there? 5 whole years of experience for an entry job. Entry. Emphasis on the entry. And now, just like your job title,
It just fucked
you're
up.
living on
It
a
just
piece
that's
of
just
paper.
all kinds of fucked up.
That's tough. Yo, I'ma be real. I will show up to the workplace that I was trying to apply to and shoot it up at that point, bro. That's the only solution. But
No.
maybe you want to see change. Maybe you want to try and fix the world. And then you turn to your right and you look at what could possibly be the most politically divided time in all of history. You look to your right only to find hundreds of old ass people who barely know even how to wipe their asses and read sentences running country, with possibly one of them being on an Epstein list. Not even probably at this point. This guy is definitely on there. He's hiding something, bro. The way he's acting, are we still talking about Epstein? Like, yo, get the fuck out of here, bro. We know you're on that list. And then, oh no, look at that. Because of them old people, the cost of living is way the fuck up there, and your money is way the fuck down there. You're broke. Ever thought about owning a house? Fuck no. Get a load of this guy, bruh. Hey, this guy wanna own a house. But all right. You remember, pussy makes the world go round. When you're in love, nothing matters anymore. All you care about is being with the one you love. Oh wait, that's right. You're bitchless. You get 0 hoes, 0 pussy, 0 play. Yo, this shit is whack. This shit is whack. You know how much of a villain you gotta be to doom the world with climate change? Make a worldwide virus that puts everyone indoors for years. Divide everyone politically. Give them no jobs, no money, and then take away the bitches, bro. There is literally a male loneliness epidemic. Our generation is bitchless. If other generations were to say we're losers, by definition, they would be right. That's crazy, bro. That's gotta be the most sad shit ever. And because you're bitchless, you crack open that laptop and get to gooning on OF. And when you really look at how many people are subbing to these OF models and how much they're actually making, statistically, one of y'all gotta be watching this shit. Matter of fact, you be gooning right now.
Exactly.
No, stop it. Take your attention off of that shit and come back to the video. But don't worry, if you're broke like I said you are, this shit's for free too. Win-win. But guess what you say to yourself? You're gonna escape the matrix. You're gonna get at the world. You're gonna push through with hard discipline.
I sleep. I sleep.
So guess what you do? You join the military. Not a bad decision. Until you realize we've had World War III scares ever since 2020. You're cooked. Ukraine versus Russia, Sudan civil war, Congo versus Rwanda, Israel versus Palestine, Israel versus Iran, Israel versus Syria, Israel versus Lebanon.
It's just war
Israel,
after
God
war
damn.
after
So
war.
you just want to be fucking up everyone's day. Like, I deadass don't know how the world is gonna end. We got like damn near 10 ways to do it. Like, genuinely, how many ways can you get butt booty fucked? That's a serious question. Cause like, what
I mean, a lot of
are we
ways.
gonna get screwed over? But guess how we solve that issue? By making it even worse.
Just make it worse. Let's make it worse for everyone. That's a great idea.
Wakey, eggs and bakey, nigga. Let's get this fucking money.
Now, I've already touched on Goonie. That sounds hella wrong. Now, I've already spoken about gooning, and I don't think I need to say how much that'll really fuck up your brain. So I have all these other things you can do. Like, for example, vaping. Because as if we didn't learn from the 90s. Because apparently it turns out if you put bubblegum blueberry flavor on a stick and hand it out to people, they're way more likely to do it. And they'll be fiending for it too. Put a crackhead and a person who says they can quit any day right next to each other and tell me what's the difference.
Are you serious right now, bro?
What? So one's a little more sophisticated. Get the fuck out of here, bro. Like, you know it's a problem when this guy is actually speaking facts right here. And let's talk about this guy real quick. I touched on red pill, but when you really think about it, gender wars is a whole nother thing that's evolved from this shit. Apparently, everyone wants to have a say-so on what the other gender should be doing in a relationship what you should be asking for, what type of value you have. Like, this shit is so fucking stupid and aggravating that, like, when I see this shit and people in the comments actually, like, agreeing with this shit, like, it makes me want to pull my fucking eyes out, bro. Like, I would genuinely pop a blood vessel over these people, bro. Take a touch and actually think for a second. Like, deadass, this was such a big issue that I could make a whole nother video about this topic. But the gist of it is, who the fuck cares? Whatever the terms and conditions you guys have at the beginning of the relationship is what you should follow. And hey, you don't agree with those terms and conditions, either amend them or fucking leave, bro. It's that easy, bro. I just solved it right then and there. Clap it up, bro, for your president. Let's take you to the casino then. How about that? Let's lose all your money. Yes, sir. Oh, you don't want to go to the casino? That's fine. That's fine. This shit's online, man. It's called stake.com. You can watch people gambling too. Live. Yo, like, this gotta be some of the stupidest, most heartbreaking shit ever, bro.
Yeah.
Like, the Gen Z stare is literally all the bullshit summarized into a metaphor, bro. They literally deadass made a whole new emoji just for this bullshit. Like, how we not deep in that? But to be honest, when you look back at all the shit that we do, you can't even really fault them, because the shitty ass conditions that we've been set into, it doesn't really matter what we do. Because if you really believe the shit that I've said for like about 20 minutes now, 1-to-1, the world's fucked beyond repair. But guess what? Humanity, time and time again, after being hit with challenge after challenge, has gotten up, beat down, gotten up again, beat down, gotten up again, just to rise to the challenge, live in the heat of the moment, battle through the hardest fights. Humanity will be able to do the same thing again. The indomitable human spirit will rise up once again, and we will face a future full of prosperity and new.
Are you sure about that?
Now, do I have an actual genuine solution?
No.
Fuck no. At the end of the
Fuck
day, I'm
no.
some guy who likes talking about urinals on the internet. What the fuck are you listening to me?
Exactly. Mega exactly. Alright, see here.
I wanted to make this video because I came across a stat recently that just blew my mind, and maybe you've seen it too. It's about 30-year-olds in America. How back in the 60s, if you were 30 years old, there was about a 50% chance that you were both married and owned a home. That was just normal life back then. But today,
Yeah.
in 2025, that number
Everything
has
just
fallen
goes
to
to
around
shit.
10%. Think about how crazy that is. Almost 90% of
Also,
people
welcome
in their
everyone.
late 20s and early
How are you
30s
doing today?
are
My
missing
name is
the
Brandon
two very
Blitz.
things
I'm
that
a variety
society used to
streamer.
tell
I
us were the
draw
markers of
art, I play
adulthood,
video
such as
games,
marriage
and soon I'll be getting
homeownership.
into
And
programming
of
and 3D
course, after
modeling.
that naturally comes family.
How are
And
you
this
doing
is, of
today?
course, more than just a number. There's a whole story behind how things got this way, and why so many of us at this age
See
wake
here.
up with this constant knot in our stomach, feeling like there's really not that much to live for. It seems like everyone feels like they're falling behind, and the worst part is that it seems like every time we want to have a real conversation about these issues, the response is always the same. It's your fault, stop being lazy, take some responsibility. There are always people out there trying to gaslight us into thinking that we're always the problem. But if everyone is feeling the same way, it's not just like an entire generation decided to get lazy overnight. Human psychology doesn't just change on a whim. So I think that means you're not crazy if you're struggling. If you're in your 20s and still feeling behind like I do, like so many other people do out there, it's not necessarily because you're a failure. It's because the world that we were promised really doesn't exist anymore. Now, most of us grew up with a specific script we were conditioned to believe in. You go to school, you get a decent job, you get married, you buy a house, you start a family, maybe have a kid or two by the time you're 30. It's very simple. That was supposed to be the timeline, and that's how it was several decades ago. For our parents and grandparents, a lot of them thankfully did hit that milestone. They could maybe graduate at 22, buy a starter home by 25, have their first kid at 28, and that's not to say everything was easy for them, but it was doable. Now fast forward to our generation. You hit 25 and maybe you're working an entry-level job that barely pays enough to cover rent. Maybe you've got tens or hundreds of $1,000s of student loans on your back. And when you look at houses, forget about it. The cheapest 2-bedroom in a big city might cost $500,000. Again, it's no wonder why people feel behind in this generation. And of course, it's important to be appreciative of a lot of the privileges we do have, like not having to fight in a war, for example. But that's also not to minimize the problems that we do deal with. Again, it's not necessarily that you failed, it's that the rules of engagement have changed. So I just want to spend some time talking about the two simple issues of marriage and homeownership, and what about them has changed in our modern world. Let's start with marriage. Why are fewer people married at 30 than ever before now? Well, first and most obviously, there's the growing cultural divide between men and women. For whatever reason, a lot of women have simply been told that they don't need men anymore, that men are optional at best or harmful at worst. And naturally, you've got men reacting to that by checking out, getting angry, or retreating into online spaces where even more resentment builds. The result of this is the whole manosphere and red pill stuff. Because for years, people blamed men for toxic masculinity. Then, as a backlash reacting to that sort of culture, entire online communities popped up that might diagnose some of the issues correctly, but they end up pushing toxic solutions that make everything worse. It's ironic that what started as blaming men for being toxic ended up actually creating more toxicity in response. And there's the dating apps. On paper, these apps were obviously meant to make it easier to meet people and build connections, but in reality, they turned dating into window shopping. Swipe left, swipe right, 6'5", blue eyes. It's all completely surface level. There's no community, no organic connection, no caring about the other person's actual values, really. It's just all superficial and materialistic. And for men, everyone knows that the apps skew heavily against us. The top 10% of guys, some people say it's 5% nowadays, get a monopoly of the attention from women, and the rest simply get almost nothing. And even for women, although it creates this weird abundance of options, it
Are there any
typically
bugs
doesn't lead
happening
to
in
long-term satisfaction. And on
joystick?
top of all this, there's a lot of fear and
I'm still
paranoia
experimenting.
going around. Nowadays, thanks to social media, you see a lot of these horror stories of people, especially men, but also women from time to time, who have gotten their hearts broken and even lost everything they have in a divorce. And obviously those stories are more so of an exception than the rule, but they at least seem more common than ever before, and they spread through word of mouth quicker than ever before. So once you've read enough of them, you start to think, why would I even sign up for that risk in the first place? And just in social media in general, people like to showcase their breakups, their drama, their bitterness, and it just creates an atmosphere where relationships don't feel safe. Getting married sometimes seems like you're just signing your life and your savings away. And finally, the other issue we can't ignore is money, because even if you do find that right person and want to get married, how can you build a stable relationship when both people are working 24/7, stressed, broke, unsure about the future? You can't afford a wedding, can't afford kids, can barely afford an apartment together. Even when love is real, money and stress can destroy it fast. So overall, I don't think it's that people don't want marriage anymore. It's that the entire foundation for what leads up to it is being crumbled from the bottom up.
Yeah, it's just
The
it's
other half
actually
of
very
this equation
unfortunate
is
though.
home ownership, and this one is brutal because back in the 1960s and 70s, the average house would cost maybe 3 times the average annual salary. But today, especially in the big cities, wages have barely moved in decades adjusted for inflation, but housing prices have gone absolutely through the roof. What makes it even more unaffordable is debt, because millions of young people who are just starting out adulthood are already in the red because of student loans they can't pay off. And of course, if you decide to take a student loan, to some extent it is your responsibility, but the prospect of a lucrative job after college, which is the reason why we go to college, that promise is something that was oversold and underdelivered. With all the difficulties in the job market nowadays, especially with outsourcing and AI, But anyways, the point is that if you're paying hundreds of dollars a month just in loans, on top of other payments like rent, car bills, electric, utilities, food, subscription services, whatever you can name really, just the cost of daily living on your own after college, with all of that, how are you supposed to save for a down payment? And if that wasn't enough, look at interest rates. Just a couple years ago, you could get a mortgage for under 3%. Nowadays, it's more like 7%. That means the exact same house might cost double in monthly payments. Not because the house changed, but because the system changed. And the shady part in all this is that Wall Street has now become a direct competitor. Honestly, more so like an oppressor than a competitor. Because big firms like BlackRock, Blackstone, and hedge funds are buying up houses by the thousands. Not just luxury properties either, starter homes too, or even the land that could have been used to build housing developments. And what
Yeah,
they
that
do
it
simply is
sucks
rent
though.
them out for profit so that people who live in them can't just make a one-time purchase and spend the rest of their lives there. Anyone who lives there has to keep giving these companies money every month for the rest of their lives. So basically, when you're out there trying to scrape enough money over the years to be able to buy a house someday, you're literally bidding against billion-dollar corporations now. And another issue that I don't think people bring up too much is location itself. Because where are most of the jobs that pay well? In big cities. And where is housing the most expensive at the same time? In these same big cities. So it's basically like you either live where the work is and pay insane rent, or move somewhere affordable, but the job opportunities don't pay well. It seems like either way the system boxes you in. So long story short, when people
Yeah.
say young people don't want to buy homes anymore, that's obviously nonsense. We do want homes, it's just that we can't get them. And where it all connects is that, of course, the issues of marriage and home ownership feed into each other. People tend to delay marriage when they don't feel financially ready. But at the same time, without a marriage or a stable partnership, it's harder to combine incomes and save up to buy a house. Without a house, people feel like they're not ready to raise kids. And without the prospect of potentially having kids, the motivation for marriage itself gets pushed back even further. As you can see, it's this vicious cycle. One missing piece makes the others harder. And before you know it, you're in your late 20s, early 30s, feeling like you've fallen off the track, even though the track itself doesn't really exist anymore. It's not just bad luck, it's not that life is just supposed to be like this, it's that we as a generation were betrayed. Not by regular people in older generations, by the way, because I see a lot of people, they like to blame the boomers or whatever. It's not just the ordinary people, because a lot of them are struggling too and understand what we're dealing with. The betrayal came from the people at the very top, the politicians, the bankers, the tech billionaires, the ones who rewrote the rules of the game for their own benefit while telling us to just work harder. They're the ones who inflated housing costs while cutting wages. They're the ones who turned college into a debt trap. They're the ones who outsource jobs, lobby for policies that benefit corporations at our expense, and then go on TV to lecture us about personal fiscal responsibility. Meanwhile, they sit in mansions, buy up starter homes through shell companies, and then tell us we're lazy for not owning one ourselves. So no, it's not necessarily that everyone who's struggling in this generation is lazy, entitled, or bad with money. The truth is that the ladder was pulled up by people who never planned on letting us climb it in the first place. And that betrayal is why so many young men feel disaffected, hopeless, anxious, even nihilistic. Because deep down, we know that the dream wasn't lost, it was stolen. And of course, I do want to remind people that there is a lot to be grateful for. For example, our generation doesn't have to deal with world wars and that kind of stuff, and we have a lot of modern technologies and conveniences that we should be grateful for. So in that sense, things are truly easier than ever. But of course, that doesn't discredit the actual issues that we do have that I'm trying to point out in this video and in a lot of my other videos. So I hope that makes
Honestly,
sense as well.
I feel it
Anyways,
just
what's the answer
sucks.
to
It
all
just
this?
sucks
I'm gonna
living
be real with you
like
and
that.
obviously not try to sell you false hope. I don't think this system gets fixed on a large-scale political level anytime soon. The people in charge don't care about us. They're too busy protecting their own wealth and power. Maybe there are some people trying to make a difference, but by and large, that's not the case. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that you're powerless. Because on an individual level, you still have choices and freedom. You can choose not to measure yourself and your self-worth by metrics that are largely unavailable to us anymore. Because if you're not married or own a house by 30, that doesn't mean you're behind. Sadly, it means that you're just part of the norm. But of course, there is always the option to try to live life by your own script, which is, as I've talked about in many videos, the philosophy that I'm living out from day to day. Because if the system is designed to trap you, then maybe don't play by their rules. Maybe focus on freedom, creativity, mobility, whatever is true to
That's
yourself.
what I'm
pursue that
focusing
with
on.
everything you have. Because the ability to do that is something that they can't take away from you. That might mean chasing creative work, starting a side hustle, moving somewhere cheaper, traveling while you're
Honestly,
young,
streaming.
or just any way of building
I
your
want
life
streaming to
around
be
freedom
my
rather than the rat race. Because
my
again,
basically
like I always say,
lifestyle.
if the game is rigged to begin with, then you have no obligation to play by the rules of it. Anyways, those are my thoughts on why I think every 20-something-year-old feels behind. I certainly do to some extent as well. Even though in many regards I am doing fairly well for myself and I'm very appreciative for everything I have in this life, as we all should be. But that doesn't mean we give up on the constant pursuit to understand the world on a deeper level, even if it means acknowledging harsh truths like this. Because at the end of the day, that's what allows you to really understand your position on the chessboard and make the best move from there. To each their own. As
Mostly,
always, thanks for watching.
you gotta do
Be sure
what
to
you
leave a
gotta do.
comment and I'll
It's like,
try to respond. And if you'd like to support the channel, thanks so much to everyone who already does. There are 2 ways to do that. You can join my Patreon, where we have a really cool community chat talking about a lot of really interesting topics. And of course, I post some unique behind the scenes content from my personal life on there. Or feel free to join channel memberships, where you have access to the entire archive of videos. I think 20+ hours of just extra content, previous videos.
alright, let me load up another video. I like watching, just listening to the background while I draw.
Should trans people have rights?
I immediately was like, the 2 things I don't want on my streams is politics and anyone soliciting their services directly in my stream chat. I just want to chill. I don't want to worry about if I'm gonna exist or not the next day. I just want to live day by day.
The family dream for decades around the world was going through life exactly like this. Going through elementary school to high school and having your typical good and bad experiences. Good experiences being meeting good friends you may have for life, and bad experiences being, I don't know, getting your head dunked and swirled in a toilet. I refuse to believe this has ever happened in real life. Like, I don't know where shows came up with this trope. Meeting your high school sweetheart and you both graduating. Yeah. Going through college and having your wild phases. Then after graduating, having a couple more years before settling down, marrying, and having kids. Universally
Exactly.
through the world, I feel like this is the typical path people see of how it goes. And with Gen Z, it's becoming more and more common for people to not want this path. According to the stats, almost 1 in 3 Gen Z and millennials are saying they won't have kids at all. Not even talking about kids, most aren't even trying to get into a relationship. Most dudes are either chronic gooners and gave up on love after their middle school breakup, and most girls are either insane femcells on Twitter saying men should have to earn the right to have freedom.
Every guy should start in jail and have to work his way out.
Absolutely.
I think
love that
that's
idea.
because it's like you need to earn your place out here.
You do.
In my opinion.
You do.
What the
and
fuck
it
is
should
wrong
be
with these
treated
kind
as
of
if they're on
people?
probation for a while. Like one strike, you're back.
Yeah, even when they're out. Yeah, you're right.
I think slave masters had that type of idea going on. At least they're being nicer, I guess. They're saying they'll free us. Anyways, I'm so glad of hearing the stats. It's not just me, and y'all are alone too. Yes, we are gonna be single the rest of our lives and have 0 chance of a relationship. On 3, Gen Z, who's with me? 1, 2, 3. Nobody did. Yeah, so I thought it would be pretty interesting to talk about why it's become how it is for Gen Z. You know, people always talking about how birth rates are dropping drastically. And if you think of it, it's kind of hard to find someone nowadays that has kids in their early, mid, or late 20s. Like, out of all people I've met in my life, I genuinely only know 2 people in my life that are Gen Z and have kids. And this trend is exactly following how it was for millennials. Crazy to think how the older generations was just popping out kids as soon as they hit 18. Nowadays, if I see an 18-year-old saying they're gonna have a kid, all I'm thinking of is, man, his life is absolutely bro. This is the most obvious one, but one of the main reasons is the cost of living has been absolutely fried the past couple of years. I know. I talk about it a lot and all the time, but man, how can I not? I mean, literally no one even has an ounce of hope. If you ask Gen Z what their hope is for the future, all they're gonna think of is how the cost of living is absolutely cooked and it's only gonna get worse. AI and clankers are gonna take like 80% of the jobs we have, and the US is gonna go into civil war over these dumbass politicians. The cost of living would be one thing if it was just happening in 1 or 2 countries, but the fact that it's happening in multiple countries at the same time, man, just pass me the cigarette already. Us Americans always focus on our house prices and how they are, which is true, but I feel a little more patriotic when I look at ours compared to the UK and Canada. This is a £650,000 house, or $879,000 house. 5 bedrooms and 1 bathroom is diabolical. I know the bathroom looks like Chernobyl every day. And in Canada, this is a $1.6 million house. No wonder Drake left out years ago. I wouldn't want to be there either. And even though I think money is obviously a factor to things like the house, I think there are people in Gen Z and millennials that can afford things like houses with a mortgage. But one of the main reasons they won't do it is because if they do get that typical family experience of getting a house on mortgage and having kids, they know they're gonna be stuck paying it for the next 30 years, probably barely scraping by. And in the act of doing that, the kids are gonna get neglected in some way. I know with my experience growing up in that typical type of suburb area, all of the kids' parents in the neighborhood, including mine, were barely home. We would be out when kids actually went outside late, and it would be 9, and some of them were still not back. Because on top of balancing the bills they had to pay, they also had to balance their kids' expenses as well, which ended up affecting younger generations' mental health and is a part of why it's such a problem now. With younger generations nowadays, we don't want to put that same type of burden on our kids. Every generation tries to improve how they were parented and change it. And I don't know about y'all, but I actually want to be able to do things with my kids. Go to Disneyland and all the fun vacation places. But if I gotta sit there balancing in this economy a $500K mortgage of a home that's the equivalent size of a shack, as well as taking care of my kids' expenses, I know it would be too much for me. Which is why a lot of Gen Z is even letting go of the thought of having kids. Why would you want to bring kids into a scenario where it's potentially gonna be chaotic? There's all different types of wars going on. You don't know what's gonna happen economically in the next years. It's also the reason why the age of having kids has been being pushed up a lot. There's a lot of women now who are having kids in their mid-30s to early 40s, which happened less in the past because it was kind of shamed by society. The shaming has gotten better in a lot of countries, but there is those places where it's still like a very bad thing to do. I find that so weird. Like, I would never sit there and judge someone for having kids later in life. It's one thing if you're bringing up potential fertility concerns, but a doctor would tell you if you're fine or not before anyways. If I did want kids also and wanted to pay for a house, I'd probably wait until at least 70% of it's paid off, which older generations did not do. They kind of just hopped into a house and popped out some kids, then hoped and prayed they could pay off the house eventually. Another thing is younger generations are valuing their freedom way more than other generations in the past. You'll see a typical boomer be like, when I was your age, I already had 5 kids with another one coming. What's the holdup, son? Yeah, the holdup is we actually want free time in our life and not have our life dedicated to kids fully. Society back then was literally just shaped on you gotta have kids or else you won't reach your full happiness. And kids are amazing things in life. I think I gotta say that anyways because I am the child of my parents. Some people get surprised though when I tell them I'm not even thinking of having kids in my 20s and I'm probably gonna do it mid to late 30s. It should have never been a thing in the past where people found you weird or strange if you didn't have any. Never in my life when I was younger and I saw a family member who didn't have kids did I think they were strange. And now that I'm grown, I find it even more weird when a grown-ass adult thinks that. Social media was the true changer of how Gen Z and millennials approached the way they wanted kids. Before social media, people still went on vacations and traveled the world, but it's given us a brand new light on things you didn't even know existed in your own city. Like, you could go on TikTok and find some miscellaneous random fun thing in your city you never heard of before to do. I wouldn't know about a bunch of the little fun things that were going on in my city without the internet. And now because Gen Z and millennials aren't having enough kids and birth rates are plummeting, all the governments around the world are panicking what to do now. You got countries like Japan and South Korea pouring billions into fixing it only to have it get worse. Trump signed a law giving every baby born in America a $1,000 investment account. You know, I'll give the guy that one, but is that money gonna even be worth anything in like 18 years? If inflation keeps up, we're gonna be paying $200 for a Big Mac at McDonald's by the 2040s. That's if we don't have a civil war with the clankers by then. No matter how much money the government gives to help with child costs, I think the lifestyle trend is stronger than that, and it won't just fizzle out. Unless the government starts paying for like 70 to 80% of people's child expenses. It's now embedded in our society with younger generations where people are simply valuing their freedom more. You can see the stats, even in places where the cost of living is decent to good, they have less kids because to people it's no longer their forefront goal in life. Even in countries right now where the birth rate may be booming, like for a lot of the African countries, they're getting developed really fast, and as soon as it's developed to the point where people don't really feel a need as much, it's gonna drop. Crazy though how the governments only now care when people have been telling them for years they can't afford things. A lot of people say the only reason why the government even cares that the birth rate is declining is because they'll have less workers, and with less workers, they get paid less and make less money. But when you ask them to put some things in law to help us, they go, all right, I hear you, I hear you. So you know what? $50 trillion to Israel. The hilarious thing is hearing older generations talk about how we don't work enough and we're lazy. Most of y'all already know it took them half the time to be able to.
It's just like, what the fuck? Why is this?
But what's really crazy and what they don't want to acknowledge is how insane the billionaires were taxed back then. From 1940 in America to 1960, the highest income tax rate was 90%. No wonder it only took them 2 years to get a house. Y'all was basically getting them handed to you. Most of the ultra wealthy people back then didn't pay that full percentage, but they still paid a lot more than what happens today. Today, the richest out there, you know, got like 500 different loopholes where they can pay $0 in taxes. I promise you, if they change the laws to be like this again, you would see the birth rate at least double. Another thing that plays a factor into it is that younger generations aren't as pressured as much into having kids. Yeah, it still happens, but the way they did it back then, it was like you were disrespecting the family if you chose not to have kids. So because of my decision in life that I personally made, you're now mad? I never understood this for real. Why don't you go have another kid or something? For now, they're staying in the sack. You still got content creators like it's the 70s blaming people for not choosing to have kids.
If you're not having kids, you're selfish. You should be having kids, sharing your knowledge, your resources, everything you have to give with the next generation. Kids are literally the best thing that is going to happen to you. You should start earlier than you think that you are ready. Having kids will actually
That's literally the worst advice you can give to anyone.
In your life of kids, you will do whatever it takes for these little human beings.
People that don't want to have kids are selfish. Point blank. That's the only reason you want to have kids, right? But here's the thing. It's okay to be selfish, right?
These people have completely lost what the definition of selfish is. Just searching up the Google definition, it says lacking consideration for others, concerned chiefly with one's own personal profit or pleasure. So how the f can you be selfish for something that doesn't even exist right now? That's like someone saying I'm selfish for not donating the money right now that I may be making in the future. Like, I'm still homeless. I haven't made the money yet. To me, it would be way more selfish to have a kid I know I'm not gonna fully be there for and put them through problems, instead of just not having the kid at all. With people that say this that want everyone to reproduce in the world, are you going to be taking care of their kids if they're not up to the task? Because if you're not, then shut the f up. Literally everyone in the world can't reproduce because we would be way too overpopulated. And the last thing that changed younger generations is the amount of communities we have. Back then, you had your typical family community and neighborhood with you, but it still didn't feel like enough. You felt like you needed that extra push. With us in social media, there is unlimited communities out there you could be a part of. You can have a community so niche, it only has 1,000 people a part of it. For us now, since we're so used to the internet, that's absolutely nothing in the size of a community. When you physically think of it though, that's like 10 times bigger than the typical neighborhood community. So now imagine 1 million or 10 million, and you could be a part of multiple of those communities at a time. It's almost impossible to not find a community you could fit in with online. Anyways, that's gonna be it though. Let me know your reproduction plans, guys, or if you have kids now. Make sure your kids watch Tom Energy for educational content always. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. As always, I love you guys consensually. And until next time, I'm out.
Before I move on to the next video, I want to try to get this done real quick. Whoop. There we go. I kind of like doing these Pokemon ball eyes. Or typical. I forget what style this is, but I like it. Alright, there we go. Anyway, how's everyone's day been? Let's chat about that a little bit. Done anything interesting so far? Oh, I need to. What the fuck? Okay, no. Um, I know, so a little bit of art practice. Whew. Anywho. Blah blah blah. Here. Anywho. Whew. We made a. Oh yeah, we made a lot of art. A bit of practice today. See, I actually like how all this actually turned out. It actually looks pretty good. Pretty good. And here. Anywho, where's my OBS? There it is. There we go. I just like drawing is just such a big relief for me. Even after a long day at work, it is just such a big relief for me. Anyway, I'm just gonna end off today's stream here. Thank you everyone for watching today's stream. My name is 𝙂𝙚𝙣𝙚 𝙖𝙩. I'm a variety streamer. I play a bunch of video games, so draw, and soon I'll be getting into programming and 3D modeling. That being said, thank you for joining today's stream and thank you for watching today's YouTube VOD. I hope you all are having something to eat and hydrating. And with that being said, I'm gonna get going now, alright? Make sure everyone, all my blitzies, get something to eat. Don't say you already ate. I know you haven't eaten in God knows how long. Go get something to eat, even if it's a snack. And also remember to hydrate, alright? So I can get going now. I can actually make myself some dinner and just relax for the rest of the night. So I said, bye bye, matinee.